Yes, good evening, my dear farmers. Let me hope everybody is fine. I've been actually today. I need to talk about goat farming for the starters because most of you have already started the goats business. But I've been receiving a number of calls wanting or looking for how can they start the business. Um, First of all, my name is Asema Adahamisi. And I would like to explain it to you again, those who have been really looking for it and who wants to make it as a business. A number of people are out of the country, other people are in the country, but the work is making them very tight. So people would really love to have that business, but because of the supervision, what to start, and a number of people have started that business actually, and most of them have failed because due to some issues of which you really need to correct. First of all, if you have your money and you really need to start a goods business, this is what you're supposed to do or what you're supposed to have. On my paper here, we do have land. Some of you are blessed that you have very big ranches, very big chunk of land that you just don't even, just only don't know what to start with or what to do with that land. So for your information, like you, if you really have a big land, let's say over 30 or 50 acres or 100 acres, what you need for your information, let me start with those people with a big land. So these people with a big chunk of land, what do you need really to see on your land? First of all, you have to have a house for the goats. Two, you have to have grass for the goats. Good enough, goats don't really consider so much grasses, shrubs. For them, they really, basically goats are browsers originally, and basically you need to know, do you have shrubs or which kind of grass you have. But for you who are ranchers, you definitely need to have um, just a house, very well ventilated house. You need to have very good genetics of the animals. So let's say if you have a land, what you have to do, one, look at the pastures, of which if you really have over 50 acres plus, you can definitely be able to be with over 200 goats plus. So that one, you just need to have a housing, of which housing has so many things. But basically just know that you have a well ventilated house. Two, what you have to look at, do you have water? Water is also another issue that you really need to consider. Housing, water, you already have the land, you have the pastures. Then the third thing you have to look at is the genetics. When I talk about genetics, I'm talking about goats that can really grow faster and those that can produce maybe 2 or 3. So in that case, as for me as a businessman over goat farming, I look at the goats that can really put on much weight, like those that can attain a very good weight gain. So definitely I'm looking at the boas and even I'm looking at the savannas, because those goats, if you're really feeding them well, at least they can put on 300 or 400 grams per day. And that means if an animal is over a year, you can definitely sell it or 400,000 or 350, even if you're selling it for consumption. But remember, there is two markets. There is that of breeding, and there is that of abattoir for slaughter. So as we have a group of farmers that are really serious, and we need to breed, have the line of breeding, and we have a line of slaughtering, and we really need to do our slaughter for ourselves, and then we export those goods. So definitely for that issue, you just look at water, housing, and then the pastures. Then you look at the genetics. Those are the breeds. So if you have that, you're good to go. Maintenance management, definitely I'll prepare one script for you about management, what do you need to do, and so on. So Let me talk about those guys with very small land. Let's say you have over 10 acres. So if you have 10 acres or below 10 acres, what you have to make sure, if you don't have enough grasses, because for this issue, you just have to look at the grass first. If you don't have good grasses, you really need to cultivate at least 3 acres. You plant the grasses, which are nutritional. Let's look at the chloris. Chloris is a very good grass. Let's talk about the lucerne, is very good grass for proteins. Let's look at centrosema, is also good in proteins. You know, goats farming is all about creation of proteins. So if you have grasses with very good proteins, definitely you're really on a proper line. So you just have to look at those of 10 acres and below. You have to look at the grasses. So you have to at least get 3 acres, plant the grasses. Then 2, look at the water. If you have the water, that is very good. Then 3, you look at the housing. So if you have the pasture, you have the water, and you have the housing, definitely you're good to go to start your goat farming. So goat farming, that means you will go for genetics, of which the other guy of a very big land did not need to plant all this. But for us, we shall plant this, and then we do zero grazing or semi-intensive. So definitely, that's what I'm talking about, goat farming as a business. So those are the basics that you really need to have. With genetics, you definitely, I talked about it, and that is the good genes, the good goats that you really need to have. So I'll talk about some other time. I think I will talk about what are the good goats, why do you go for those good goats, and why do you really to have very good female goats for your own benefit. So definitely, this is the goat farming, and those are the basics. I think those people who have been asking me, how do I start, how do I do what? We are even preparing to have a company that those people who really so much interested in doing goat farming, but they don't have people on ground they trust, we shall let you handle your staff to the company. You sign up an agreement with the company, and when you sign up an agreement with the company, it's the company to run everything. So the company will give you a projection that if you start with 50 goats, you will definitely have this number of goats. So what you will do, you will pay for the basics of that. Whatever they tell you, you just come over 2 years and say, the target was this. When I start with this, where are my animals? Definitely you be able to be shown. So that's what we are going to. And people, let's don't joke with goat's meat. You know, now meat itself, actually, it has become a very big issue. And I hear that the goat's meat is actually not even goat's meat, but even other meats, or let's say the cow's meat, the beef, it is at 15,000. So that is an advantage for we, the farmers, the producers, that if the meat is raising, that is calling us for money.